Thank you for tuning in to the Afternoon Pint. This episode is sponsored by Camilla Najat of Exit Realty, Strategy Up Business Consultants, and ISS Atlantic Security Guard Services. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Afternoon Pint. I'm Mike Tobin.
I'm Matt Conrad.
And who do we have with us today?
I'm Elliott Van Dusen, paranormal investigator here in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Paranormal investigator?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And this is our Halloween episode.
Oh yeah. Happy Halloween.
So where are we today? We made a journey to get here.
I was abducted by an alien this morning, and I arrived. Is that paranormal enough for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And arrived here, just, I don't know, in a field, and found my way out.
Found his way out to the old number 7. So we're at the old number 7.
Yes, that's right.
And so you guys are drinking the beer.
We forgot to cheers.
We did forget to cheers.
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 There we go.
Jeez. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah,
So we're
having
drinking
the
old number 7.
Yeah.
So, Matt, tell me a little bit about this beer, because you were telling me like earlier, just before we got on.
So old number 7, it's a beer that's specially made for this restaurant. It's actually made by Molson.
Interesting.
So big label, but they make it special for these guys.
Cool.
It's their number 1 seller, they said. So it brings a lot of people in.
Does Molson do that for a lot of people, do you know?
It depends.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
They have a good enough relationship with them and everything. So yeah, he said that today he just said that he found out they signed another like 6-year deal or something with them. So they're
that's
they're
great.
doing all right. Yeah.
Oh, they don't sell this one in the stores, though. Eh? So
No,
it's
you can only get it here
here.
in pint form,
Cool.
kind of thing. So, and I'm changing it up. I actually have, if I'm not drinking beer, I do love to sip on a Caesar. The reason I did that is because I heard that their Caesars are really great here.
Sure.
From a few Caesar people. So I'm drinking what did I call it? A lava hot Caesar?
Is it lava hot?
It's not lava hot.
What's your spice rating?
They never make it. No one ever makes it as hot as I want it. It's just
So Matt's a total nut with spice, man.
yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah, and, like total nut. Like he takes you ever like chili oil, it's pretty hot for
Yeah.
most people. He eats it like candy.
That's
Right?
crazy. I used to be able to do that. I just cannot do that anymore. No.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Me neither.
I like the heat.
Did you
range.
ever try when Bubba Ray's was still in Halifax?
Yeah, I
Did
ate
you
the
ever try their
Death
death
Wings
Wings?
twice.
Really?
Yeah, I ate them twice.
Oh my god! I tried one once, and I took my buddy's girlfriend's drink to drink it because I ran out of my drink.
No, I ate a pound of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
my
want to touch
god!
it. Never.
You know what? They
Pretty
did say
hot.
there was people that would come in there and eat like a pound or 2 of them and not even sweat.
I was the third person to ever finish. I knew the owner, and I was the third person to ever finish a pound of them.
Oh my god!
So yeah,
That's crazy.
So it was. They're hot. I think they're not to be messed around with. They were quite hot.
No, They gave it to us after we finished our meal because they said if we give it to you before, you will not finish your meal, and it was
funny.
true. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah, man. You have a really interesting job title. So, but
You
before
do.
I get into that, so go back. So
Yes.
you worked with the RCMP for quite a long time.
Yeah, so I was a corporal with the RCMP for 15 years.
Amazing.
Started out in Penticton, British Columbia, which is home to the Lake Monster Ogopogo with Lake Okanagan. Would often keep an eye out for him on night shift, but never did see him.
Okay.
Then I went up to Yellowknife Northwest Territories, which was very interesting, actually. There was a community about 300 kilometers away from Yellowknife called Wati, and they believed in what they called the Bushman, which would be to us like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot.
Okay. I was
And,
thinking like more of the Wendigo type of thing, but okay,
No,
Sasquatch.
no,
Okay.
it was more like a Bigfoot, and they
Okay.
believed that the Bigfoot was responsible for missing children and missing bush camp workers.
Oh, okay.
And the Northwest Territories did have quite a few missing people. I worked on homicide, so missing people fell under homicide.
Yep.
And we did have, at the time, around 90 outstanding missing people. Now, some of them, you could make an assumption of what happened. For example, there would be one file where it says there's snow tracks from a snowmobile going out onto a lake, and then all of a sudden you see fresh water, and then you see nothing.
Yeah.
Most likely they went underneath the lake and just you couldn't find the body. But there certainly is some strange stuff that happens up there. While I was up there, there was actually a UFO sighting as well in the community of not Inuvik. It was Delaney. And the whole town had seen the UFO. It was hovering over the dump. And 3 RCMP officers that were posted to the community all witnessed it. Watched it for several hours.
So,
One of them...
So 3 RCMP officers all said the
all
same
saw
thing.
the UFO. They actually thought when the call came in,
This has been
that it
written
was a
down and
joke.
confirmed that these dudes all believe that they saw a UFO together.
Yep, they all saw the UFO. One of them used to have something to do with the airline, so he knew that it wasn't like your typical 747. Watched it for several hours, and then I remember I was posted on a plainclothes unit at the time, and I remember the next day when I came to work, everyone was talking about this UFO sighting up in the community, and I was like kind of eavesdropping, and they actually had flown all the members into Yellowknife to be basically interrogated by management.
Wow.
To find out exactly what they saw. And then I later found out when I interviewed the guy for one of my books, it was either supernatural encounters, true paranormal accounts from law enforcement, or more supernatural encounters from law enforcement. One of the two. He actually said CSIS came out. They sent somebody from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service.
So I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like,
Crazy story.
it is crazy, and I want to go through it all, but I want to know, did policing get you into this, or were you into this before policing?
Same question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great question.
You know what? It's so funny. Some people have experiences that get them into the paranormal. What happened with me is I always knew I wanted to be a police officer. I come from a family of police officers, aunts and uncles that were with the Ottawa Police Service and then Toronto Police Service. But I knew I specifically wanted to do homicide work. I found those cases fascinating. And Unsolved Mysteries kind of roped me into both because they do cold cases.
Yeah.
But then they also, every once in a while, throw a ghost story in there or a UFO story.
Right.
And so I thought that was interesting, too. And then fast forward to 1997, I came across a television show called The X-Files.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen it.
I was raised by that show.
It had been out since 93, and I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
So I see it in 97. I'm like, this is amazing. You have two law enforcement officers investigating claims of the supernatural.
Right.
Yeah.
So I created my nonprofit organization called Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation. And we started out by collecting local folklore stories in the Sydney, Cape Breton area.
Yeah.
And that eventually led into doing some haunted home investigations. And then when I moved up to Halifax, there was a parapsychologist named Dr. Darrell Walsh. He's written Ghosts of Nova Scotia.
Right.
I have his book.
He's a long-time friend of mine. Now, he became my mentor. I took a couple of his courses when he was teaching at the Nova Scotia Community College, and that's kind of what started my academic career into the field of what's called parapsychology.
That's fascinating. Now, the RCMP side, I'm just asking this as a general question. It's like, I mean, not to put paranormal investigations into a box, but, the loony bin, right? You're like, okay, that's the crazy, like, so was the RCMP like supportive through your career when you were into this? Were you teased a lot, or how does that kind of work within the culture of the RCMP?
Yeah, it was bad. I actually, Stanton T. Friedman, when he was still alive, he was a nuclear physicist in New Brunswick, a UFO researcher.
Yeah.
He had nicknamed me Fox Mulder. And so I kind of got the nickname of Canada's Fox Mulder, but I experienced the same type of harassment that you see in the X-Files that Mulder received in season 1 from a lot of his colleagues.
Yeah.
I'd have proton packs taped to my locker at work. I actually got called in once to the staff sergeant's office to see if they told me if I had told the RCMP that I had this nonprofit organization that was involved in the paranormal. I said, yeah, of course I did. I said, during the security background, they ask you, are you a part of any organizations?
Yeah,
right.
I told them everything. They made me write a letter to departmental security to have my security clearance, my top secret security clearance reviewed. And of course, it came back saying, yeah, we already know about this. Like, what's the issue?
Right.
And then I went in the office, and I was pissed off, but I was still very junior, and it's a paramilitary organization, so you don't really talk back to your supervisors.
Right.
Yep.
But I went in there, and I let them know that I wasn't happy about it. Today it would be considered harassment, and that just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But back then, let them know that I wasn't happy about it, and actually educated them. I said, you do know that in the 70s, like, the RCMP actually used to investigate UFO files, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they had no idea. And, like, I actually had them from the National Archives.
Nice.
I went to St. Mary's University.
Yeah.
I had tracked down Father Burke Gaffney's UFO files. He was an astronomer at St. Mary's University. Mm-hmm. And the RCMP would send him UFO files to investigate from an astronomer's side.
Oh, cool.
And I actually had his files, his personal files, because they were kept in the archives of St. Mary's University. These supervisors had no idea that the RCMP used to investigate UFOs. But that was a type of treatment that I got.
Yeah.
I've talked to some police officers
And it's
down
quite
the
out the
States.
bag now today. Like, I mean, the FBI disclosed a whole bunch of information this year.
Yeah.
It's totally different today than it was. That would have been 2005.
Yeah.
It's totally different then with the disclosure. But yeah, there's a lot of people that don't realize like Canada is actually a very wealthy spot to investigate UFOs.
We got Shag Harbour. That's pretty cool, right?
Exactly. It's one of the only government documented that's publicly available UFO crashes.
We got to go down there sometime and go through the museum for the podcast.
Every time I drive past it, it's
I know.
closed.
Oh, really?
I've driven past like half a dozen times because I, traveling salesman guy.
Yeah.
So if I was going down that highway, I'd always be like, I'll just kind of see if it's open. So I drive down, never be open. So I just go right on. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Weekdays and
It's
stuff,
actually,
but-
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've been there
I was
once.
just in
like a little
Vegas, and I wanted to go up and drive the extraterrestrial highway,
Yeah.
and go up to Rachel and check out that and everything.
What's
But
the extraterrestrial highway?
it's the highway that goes to Area 51.
Oh, yeah.
And then the town of Rachel is like right next to it. And
It's
I
on
wanted
my
to go-
bucket list. I'm with you.
I wanted to go. In the end, I kind of decided to not do it because I know I'll get back to Vegas again. But we had our 3-year-old with us, and we had been gone for like almost 3 weeks, and it's a 2-hour drive from Vegas, and I was just it was the end of our trip, and I was just kind of like,
I want to
don't
do
wanna
it
do
with my wife. I don't want to bring my daughter there. I know it's risky going out there. So you can YouTube videos.
Risky how?
Risky in the fact that
shoot ya?
they literally do not want you to go there.
Yeah.
Deadly force is authorized if
Yeah.
you cross a certain line.
Yes.
There was actually a bus tour that used to take people out there, and he got distracted talking to people once and actually crossed the line. Every single person on the bus got arrested. The local police were called. They were all fined.
Jesus.
Like, it's a big deal.
but they have a sign up that says like if you hit a certain point that they have the right to shoot you dead.
This episode is brought to you by Camilla Najat with Exit Realty Metro.
Camilla Najat is an experienced real estate agent who prides herself in finding the perfect home for her clients. Camilla can help you with a comparative market analysis to help determine the value of your home if you're planning on selling, or help you determine the going rate for the neighborhood you're moving into. She can also work with you at your pace.
You can reach Camilla by calling 902-880-8429 or email camilla@exitmetro.ca.
Also, you can find her on Facebook at Camilla Najat, Exit Realty Metro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dumb question. Like Area 51, why is it so secretive?
Well, I think
Is it more military intelligence?
Some people believe that there's UFOs kept there. Some people believe the UFO that they recovered from Roswell's brought there.
Right.
But what it is known for is like the stealth bomber and the stealth F-117 fighter were developed there by Lockheed Martin.
Yes.
So they develop, very secretive military airplanes. So you can see, how they would be protective of that alone.
For sure.
Let alone if they got aliens in there.
My favorite Obama story was when he was on, I can't remember what night show it was, but he was on a night show, and they were talking to him, and he said, first thing I did when I won as president, he goes, went to Area 51.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about it. He was like,
day
I
two?
have the maximum clearance. I can do anything I want. He's like, I flew out there.
That's funny.
And the funny thing was, too, is when Trump was president, I thought to myself, if there's going to be any president that's
gonna
going to
say
say
everything?
something, it's going to be him. And I was very surprised. A lot of people would ask Trump about UFOs and extraterrestrials, and he kind of really didn't say much. But
It's above his intelligence level.
Well, that's just it. It almost sounded like it just simply wasn't an interest to him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really confirm or deny anything. He just almost sounded like he wasn't interested in it.
Yeah. Which that makes a lot of sense to me. But for me, and we can get into the whole paranormal thing because that's such a broad thing.
Yeah.
I'm like a agnostic when it comes to this stuff because I find it very interesting. I'd love for it to all be real. I'm a space guy. I love space.
Yeah, me too.
But, Neil deGrasse Tyson is like my top. There you go. Neil deGrasse Tyson is like probably my favorite guy, top guy that I'd ever want to get on this podcast. And I could talk, like, that would be a 6-hour podcast. But so I love space and the whole science behind it. But because I'm so into it, I find it a little hard to believe that we have visitors.
Right.
I do. I struggle with it.
Yeah, well,
struggle with it.
I'm a little
journey
different
through
from you
space.
because you're like easy on ghosts, and I'm like more like I could see alien life forms visiting here, in my mind, easier than I could see a ghost of a loved one,
fair enough.
in my attic.
Yeah.
Honestly, God, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm more of the aliens are out there, but I'm less on the spirits are haunting us. It's
Right.
so weird how we both have that different kind of take on it.
Yeah.
Right? What?
We know we're the same but opposite.
Same but opposite. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
Because
I think that's just my science brain kind of kicks in, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, but how did we get from we scan so much around, we don't see any life on any planets, so the next planet that could have life is like 10,000 light years away, which means you have to go the speed of light, and it would still take 10,000 years, and we know solid objects can't go the speed of light, so it's like until the science can kind of back it up and be like, here's how we get from point A to point B in a month,
right?
Then I'm kind of like, I don't know, right?
Yeah,
that's just for me. Ghost is just I was just someone into it when I was a kid.
So
right?
now you must believe in all of these things in a sense.
Yeah, so that's what's paranormal to you?
Definitely believe in ghosts. So whenever I'm asked, are ghosts real? The answer is yes, they're real. Mm-hmm. We know that. We know that through some laboratory experiments. But the question is what is it? So if you guys are
I like this.
If you guys are familiar with the work of the late Dr. Michael Persinger, he was a neuroscientist at Laurentian University, a good old Canadian boy. And he developed what was called the God helmet. So he took a snowmobile helmet and he put electrodes in it.
Okay.
And he had a theory that electromagnetism would cause people to experience haunting characteristics. Mm-hmm. And so what he found is when you increase the electromagnetism above your temporal lobes, which is right the brain spot right by your ears here.
Right.
Whenever that gets to a certain level, people actually start to feel the sensation that they're being watched. Some people actually saw apparitions. They saw apparitions of people that they loved that had passed away. Some people that were really religious actually saw like the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ in the laboratory. So we know that people can see ghosts, and we know...
or at least pushing them to an hallucinogenic state where they feel they've seen something.
Yes, so we've actually had a case... my mentor, I talked to you guys there earlier about Dr. Darrell Walsh. He had a case where there was one of those old-fashioned alarm clocks with the wood paneling on it. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so a gentleman had made a complaint that every night he'd wake up and at the foot of his bed he'd see a female apparition. So when we went there to investigate, we found out that the alarm clock was giving off an excessive amount of radiation, which was right near his bed. It was on the nightstand near his bed. So once that clock was recommended to be replaced and he got a new modern clock that wasn't giving off as much radiation, the haunting stopped. He stopped waking up in the middle of the night with that presence at the end of his bed.
Huh. So it was a haunted alarm clock?
Not a haunted alarm clock, but the alarm clock was just giving off so much radiation that it was causing him to hallucinate and feel that somebody was in the room and see that somebody was in the room.
Right.
So we know that ghosts do exist, but the question is when somebody reports that to you, what is it? Is it something that's natural, like a high level of EMF from unshielded wires, things like that? There's also a case as early as 2009 where a lady was getting a shower and an apparition appeared in the shower with her, and she freaked out. Luckily, she called a pretty switched-on paranormal team that came to her house to take a look at what's going on. And they found out that she had recently had a hot water tank installed, but it was installed improperly, and it was actually giving off excessive amounts of carbon monoxide.
Wow.
So what she was experiencing was carbon monoxide poisoning. So once that was fixed, the lady had no other issues, no apparitions show up, nothing like that.
That's kind of like that. There was a statue with the Virgin Mary, there was a statue somewhere in a country, and people were having images, like visions of the Virgin Mary, and they realized it was gas leak. Type of thing, right?
Wow.
That type of thing.
Yeah, things like that. So, and there's another.
And you guys up in Cape Breton have that Jesus on the Tim Hortons.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we did.
They're making a movie of that. They're trying to make a movie of it.
There's also another mentor of mine, Lloyd Auerbach. He investigated this one place that was like the perfect haunted house. So it was a new development. The people had moved in, and they started to see like glowing balls of light, and when it would touch the couch or the wall, it would catch fire. The couch would catch fire, the wall catch fire. There was a room that was always cold, no matter how warm they tried to make it. Mm-hmm. And there was another room they'd get really sick in.
Right.
And when they ended up calling Lloyd and he came out to investigate with his team, what they found is that it was built in an old landfill, and it was in the Valley of California where it's very dry. So what was happening was methane gas was coming up out of the ground, and it was very dry, so there was a lot of static electricity.
Yeah.
So that's what was causing the glowing balls of light and the sparks. And then in the room that was always cold, there was an underground source of water that was causing that room to be colder than normal. And then what they found is the third room that was making everybody feel sick, the architect had tried to do some fancy thing that wasn't up to code, and everything was off level and off kilter in there. So when they were in there, the fluids in their head was causing their equilibrium to be thrown off. And it was
Almost like giving them vertigo.
making them nauseous. And
it sounds really interesting. A lot of this paranormal stuff relates to brain chemical reactions, in a sense. Is that?
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Now, there have been cases that we've experienced stuff that we can't explain.
Sure.
One of them, actually, I'm going to talk about tonight here at Old Number 7.
Yeah.
It was a haunted house that we did in Kentville many, many years ago, and it was the first time I ever saw something that I couldn't explain. And the people had moved into an old home. It was over 100 years old. They had only been there for about 9 months. They had to put one of their dogs down because it was rescue and it was aggressive. And they started to see the apparition of the dog. They started to see an apparition of a female walk down the stairs. They saw what they thought were faces in photographs. And they had pennies that were materializing all over the house.
Whoa.
So we went there. The first night, we checked everything. Like, the house was clean. They cleaned up. They showed us the jar that they just tossed the pennies in. And nothing happened the first night except around 5 in the morning. Every hour on the hour, I'd get my guys to go and check the camera, make sure the tape's recording, and that the battery's still good. And at 5 in the morning, one of my investigators found a penny by the base of the tripod that had appeared there. The husband and the 2 kids had gone to bed earlier in the night, so they hadn't put it there, because if they had come downstairs, we would have saw them come downstairs. And then we were all in the living room with the homeowner, and nobody had left at the time. So there's no way that somebody had snuck by and put it there. And the audio was very good, much like your guys' microphone. When I asked the investigator to go check, you could hear the springs lift up off the couch from him getting up. You could hear his footprints, walking towards the camera, and then you can hear his expression when he finds the penny there. Couldn't explain that. So we went back a second night, and the second night was actually more eventful. One of the investigators that we had stationed outside with night vision had seen movement in one of the upstairs bedroom. And so he had radioed us to ask if anyone was upstairs, but we were all downstairs at the time. So he was out there with another investigator. He said, just you hang out here, watch the night vision. I'm going to go upstairs and check. Goes upstairs, finds a bedroom door that's shut, opens the door, goes in, looks around, there's nothing there, looks out the window, sees the other investigator, waves to him. All of a sudden, something catches the corner of his eye. He turns, there's a ghost of a little girl standing on the bed. And he said she was there for a few seconds, disappeared. The curtain kind of like lifted up and landed on the bed. Once he composed himself, he radioed us and told us to come upstairs. We had come upstairs, didn't see the apparition. Room was completely ice cold. Like, I had never felt cold like that until I went up north years later, up in Nunavut, and felt that Arctic cold air. And then we had a reverend on the team at the time, so he kind of said like a little prayer, and then all of a sudden the cold dissipated. We had an EMF reader in there. It was getting these random hits. So it was beeping every time there'd be high radiation popping up. And then that just all of a sudden disappeared, and then the room felt very peaceful after the prayer. The only thing that we were actually able to explain in that house was the faces in the photographs. So they were taking photos, and whenever it would hit the wood frame that was highly glossy, it would create what's called visual pareidolia. That's when our mind tries to make sense of something that doesn't make sense to us. One of the first things that it tries to make sense of is faces. That's why you can look up at the clouds and see Mickey Mouse or whatever you want to see. So in the photos, when you would look at them, you know, some of them did look like faces, but it's because that's exactly what
you want to see.
Yeah. And it's a natural instinct for us, because we needed to make quick decisions many, many years ago to make sure whether somebody's a threat or not. So that's why we have that design in us, where our mind looks for faces, looks for threats, things like that.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a crazy story, man.
There's a lot to it. You know, it's not just...
So for you... would you say that you're someone who is like still, because there's different types of paranormal investigators. There's ones who are like, yeah, I'm full in on this. I think ghosts are real, and I just want to prove which ones are right and which ones aren't, kind of thing. Or are you still an agnostic, where are you kind of?
No, you know what? I'm definitely a believer for
Yeah.
sure. I call myself a critical believer. I think the police force has, drilled that into me because, on a police investigation, you need to find the evidence, right?
Right. Yeah.
And if you don't have enough evidence, you can't recommend it for charges or lay the charges yourself, depending what province you're in. Right. And you can't go ahead, right?
Right.
You know the guy did it, but you just can't prove it.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. I take that into my paranormal investigations as well. Like some things I can say, you know what? We just, like the penny appearing, for example, just can't explain that. There was nobody that had gone in, nobody had gone out. Nobody had planted it there. It wasn't a joke. Just could not explain that.
Yeah.
And then the faces in the photograph could explain that.
Right. I gotta ask you, man, like how many events, ghost or other, like how many come across your desk in like the run of a week or a month? Like,
So we're a reactive organization in the fact that we don't go out and like book venues and go and investigate like a lot of people do. We're strictly reactive. So how we get our cases is people usually come across our website or even Facebook and they ask for help.
Right.
And then we obviously interview them and see if it's worth us doing a full field investigation because we are a nonprofit organization and the investigations can be expensive. I'll give you an example. We just did one a couple months ago up in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and it probably cost us around $1,000.
Okay.
So that's why I do these public events here. Any profit that's left over from...
so you're non-profit.
We're registered nonprofit. We're the oldest registered society in Nova Scotia with the registry joint stocks.
Really?
And then we're also registered. The oldest, if you check.
What year was that?
We've been around since 97, but we registered, I believe, in like 2002 or 2004.
Okay.
So if you go on Registry Joint Stocks and type in paranormal and go through the list of registered societies, you'll see that Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation is the oldest.
Wow.
And then, of course, we're registered federally as well under the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. And then we're also incorporated down in the States, in the state of Massachusetts, because we do have a team that works down in New England, and then we have
That doesn't surprise me.
and we have a team
Salem
up
and
here.
all that stuff.
Oh
and
my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
New England is just as
Yeah.
haunted as Atlantic Canada.
There's a reason why Stephen King comes from New England, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He has tons of stories to write about. But
Oh, they have some of the craziest, oldest hauntings that you hear about. Like the.
So you're not limited to ghosts, is that
No.
correct? Yeah.
No,
So
we
what's
do
some of the
everything.
other like stories you could maybe share if you got another one?
Well, before we even jump there, just so you know, you're actually our third paranormal guest, and you may not know this, but we actually had a guest on, and we actually went on a paranormal investigation of the Halifax Club with them.
Oh yeah, we did.
Oh,
We
the
went with the Soul
Halifax Club's
Seekers
a
and
cool spot.
investigated the Halifax Club.
Okay, yeah.
So we actually get to go on a paranormal
pretty cool.
investigation with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
They blindfolded me, stuck me in the basement in the tunnels underneath the ground,
Yes.
and got me to listen to voices in my head or whatever.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
It was
Yeah.
fun. It was
Yeah.
fun. So just so you have some context, we've actually been in. We've experienced a little bit. kind of
That's
thing,
really
right?
cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
And obviously, Laura Warren. So so it's
Yes,
So
and
she was
Laura
our first.
actually investigated that place as well in her TV series, Sightseers.
That's right.
Down there. Yeah, there was allegedly a prostitute that was
Yes.
thrown out the window
Yeah.
and killed there. A lot of the staff report activity in the upstairs part there.
Yeah,
Right.
general manager won't even go up there.
Yeah. It's got a long history. The tunnels itself, like you said, in the basement are very creepy. Everyone. It's kind of a mix. You'll hear some people say, "there's not tunnels underneath Halifax," but
No,
it's
there's
been,
tunnels.
it's been
I was there. I was in them.
It's been proven. Yeah, there are tunnels that run all over the place, right?
I was the only one who went down in them.
Oh yeah,
It was like, Matt can go. I was like, sure, why not?
yeah. Did you have anything that you would think is unusual happen to you?
This episode is brought to you by Strategy Up. Strategy Up is a business consulting firm led by Mark Zerka, who has over 20 years' experience in building commercial strategies that will up your game, organize your teams, increase your productivity, and grow your business.
Whether you're a construction company looking to grow your revenue or a busy restaurant owner just trying to keep the doors open, Strategy Up can help. Strategy Up's boutique-style consultations will help you improve business process across nearly any industry.
Being a successful entrepreneur does not mean you have to be an expert in everything. Strategy Up specializes in building a relationship with you. Once pain points in the business are realized, Strategy Up will introduce process and technology that will power up your game to the next level.
A successful business requires investment. Your next step towards growth starts now. Email info@mystrategyup.com for a free business discovery call. Up your game with Strategy Up.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this with Laura too, but like I had stuff when I was younger where I'm pretty sure like I saw something like an old rectory that was haunted. I'm pretty sure I saw something. And the reason why I say pretty sure is I thought I saw something, but I was amazed by this stuff at the time. And the 3 other people who I was with ran away. So I was like, well, they must have saw the same thing I did. Meanwhile, I'm like, this is cool. And they're like, nope. So yeah, I mean, I've had a couple weird little features. I think I've even talked about like my uncle in '96 when he passed away. We, Dad and I were sitting upstairs, kind of just hanging out, and we heard footsteps walking up the stairs to the point where Dad said, "Go see who that is," right? Because no one else was home or whatever, right? And so I went and looked, and I was like, nobody was there. So I mean, there's a couple things like that, a couple weird stuff that happened, like that. But in this paranormal investigation specifically, I mean, there was some weird stuff there. Like they had me, they had headphones on me so I couldn't hear and blindfolded me and everything so I couldn't see. And they were asking questions and they were saying like, just whatever words you hear, just say it. And there was, it was weird. Some of the things I was saying was actually like really matching up with what they were asking kind of thing. I think one of the weirdest parts of it all was like they asked me, or they asked in general, like, where are you? And there was one person who was like, where I was on the chair and everything like that. They had one person who just like jumped down the part of the hole. And they were like, where are you? And I was like, I'm behind you. Like I said that. And I didn't know, whatever. And so we got some footage of that over. And then that bell going off was crazy. We were in another room and all of a sudden like that little like service bell started going off like crazy too. So that was kind of weird. But, there may be an explanation to that in the moment. Who knows what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's
It was a cool experience. For sure.
It was very cool.
That's really
experience.
cool. Yeah.
I didn't know what to think walking away from some of it. But I would definitely do it again.
That's cool. I mean, a lot of times when you go to these types of investigations, it's not like what you see on TV where, people are freaking out. And, lots of scary stuff's happening. A lot of times we'll go to places and it's like watching paint dry.
No, I was going to say like some parts of it is
I tend to get bored super easily. Yeah. I was getting bored into the second hour. I'm like, all right, when are we wrapping this up, guys?
We did it for 3 hours, and like the ones we were like the ladies we were with, they were like, "Wow, we should have been doing this for like 6 or 7." I'm like, "Oh,"
I was like, "No, I'm good.
No, I can't do it."
It's not for everybody. A lot of times, like I said, it is very boring and mundane. I actually feel really bad for my people on my team that have to review the audio and the video afterwards, because a lot of times, like we use 2 tape recorders if we're trying to catch electronic voice phenomena. Because
that makes sense.
Weirdly enough, when you catch that voice on the tape recorder, if you have 2 of them there, it normally, if it's paranormal, only shows up on 1 tape recorder.
Oh, man, I'll tell you one thing. Editing this show, electric voice phenomena, if that's a thing, I'm not sure if it is, but I've had some weird stuff recording over or editing over 80 episodes or whatever this is now of this show. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get a weird cackle. Like,
that's
lines.
right. Yeah.
Like, sometimes I tell Matt about them, and it got to the point where now I just started dismissing them, right? I'm just like, I get this shit out of here. Like, and it doesn't even faze me anymore.
Yeah.
But, like, there were times where I'm like, okay, because I record this on channels, so every one of us have our own mic, own channel. Yep. So if I hear a weird noise, I might assume it's an interference coming from one of the 3 mics, right?
Right.
Or, like, maybe I laughed at a weird time, or maybe Matt laughed at a weird time. But, dude, there's times where I, like, I'll listen to each channel individually, and I'm like, it's on all channels, right? And it's not any one person, and it's this weird like undertone thing, and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Right. Like what those things are.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the issue with electronic voice phenomena too. It's good if you have someone that says like their location's haunted and you're getting all kinds of different other things, people are seeing apparitions, you do happen to catch an EVP. It kind of helps support the case, but on its own merit. The problem with electronic voice phenomena is there's 4 theories right now that you can't prove one way or the other. So one is that it's a spirit talking.
Sure.
The other one that I've not personally experienced, but I have a friend that runs a radio show in Toronto, Michelle DeRoche. She experienced this where telepathy can be recorded on the measuring device. So, for example, she had a case where they want had to go to the house to do the initial interview to see if it's worth doing a full investigation. And her kid was really sick that day. And she kept saying to herself in her head, I got to go home. My kid's really sick. I got to go home. My kid's really sick. Later on, after they finished the interview, her technology guy goes home and he's transcribing everything. And all of a sudden, the homeowner's telling their experience. And all of a sudden, he can hear on the tape Michelle say, I got to go home. My kid's sick. But it doesn't interrupt the natural flow of the conversation. I need another beer. The person keeps telling the story, and the technology guy calls Michelle and says, hey, I just came across this. And she goes, that's crazy. She goes, I was saying that in my head, but I wasn't, I wouldn't say that. That's rude. I just wouldn't have gone to the house.
Right.
The other one is obviously interference. It can be interference through, different radio waves and things like that. And then, of course, the fourth, there's actual psychological reason for it, and it's called audio pareidolia. So same as the visual, where we're designed to recognize faces quickly. With audio pareidolia, our brain is, again, designed to try and make sense of stuff that doesn't necessarily make sense to us. So, for example, when you listen to that electronic voice phenomena, if it's not very clear, some of them are very clear and you can tell what's being said.
Right.
If it's not very clear and somebody tells you what it says, that's it. You can't unhear that. You're going to just keep hearing that same thing. Because that's what the brain defaults to. Now, some electronic voice phenomena I've heard have been very, very clear.
Yeah.
Most of them, unfortunately,
we were
are
trying to
very
cover
muffled.
some of that with the Soul Seekers, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and now you'll see a lot of ghost hunters and paranormal investigators using apps. Don't trust the apps at all.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's actually studies being done right now. I know one of my members was involved with one of the studies at the University of Western Ontario, where they're starting to reverse engineer the software for the apps, and they're finding that the apps are using things in there like your microphone. It knows your GPS location. It's using things in the phone to basically run the app and design stuff. So, like, it's going to... The ghost detector, for example, is going to tell you there's a ghost in front of you because it knows what direction you're pointing because of your phone.
Right.
Things like that, right?
Right.
And let there be no mistake. I know this from my work with the RCMP. It's not a coincidence if we're all talking about a BMW and then all of a sudden we go on our phone and ad for BMW comes up on Facebook.
Absolutely.
The phones are listening.
The Facebook mobile application has been reverse engineered.
Yeah.
And there's a code in there that they can turn your microphone on, whether or not you have that setting set on your phone or not.
Yeah.
So Big Brother is always listening.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You can't.
And we're hearing this from an RCMP officer.
You can't.
I'll take that as a good word.
You
good
can't.
authority.
You can't trust the electronics. No.
Yeah.
I try and stick to the very basics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to my question about other things from.
Yeah.
I mean, we only got a little bit of time left here.
Yes,
I mean, I could talk with you all night, man. But like Matt's in the ghost thing, and I'm in the alien thing, right? Like what I believe is like anything could have happened, man. Like when you look at how old the Earth is. This is where I think aliens exist. I don't think they're necessarily visiting us now on a regular location, taking our people up and doing weird things to their butt, right? That sounds weird to me, right?
Sounds weird to me, too.
Why is it always your butt, man? Why didn't they just say hi or kill you, right? Why would you just kill that person? That would make more sense if you were in, but anyways, but like, pyramids, things that we can't explain that are on Earth and been on our Earth for, how did they build the pyramids, right? Like really build the pyramids sometimes when you look at it.
Yeah.
It's pretty friggin' hard to...
Or when you see the the old hieroglyphics or the cave paintings with what appears to be spacecraft or ships.
And they appear to have some sort of technology that we don't fully understand.
Do you know what, though? That some of that stuff, though, because like there's another thing, as you said, the Earth is quite old.
Yeah.
It's quite possible that like 100,000 years ago, there or whatever, right? I guess there's dinosaurs. We can check that stuff, but we have to also understand that we may have had another civilization that made it to a certain point.
Another way,
right?
Yeah, no, for
they,
sure.
They got to a certain point, and then they all got wiped out, just like the dinosaurs did, and we just don't have.
Well, we
humans don't
know,
have giant
for
bones.
example, like the Aztec used to be advanced civilization, and they got wiped out.
Yeah.
And they just had to be soon, and like they're not that old.
So I guess anyway. So sorry about all that, but did you see? What's some of the? Do you have any really great stories about extraterrestrial life or landings that you've investigated or you've seen? Or
There's been Most cases of UFOs that we get reported are close encounters of the first kind, so it's your lights in the sky.
Yeah.
To me, after several years, that gets boring to me. What I like is when you got a close encounter of the second kind where it leaves some sort of physical evidence, or a close encounter of the third kind where people either see entities or actually interact with entities.
Right.
Now, we haven't had those types of reports reported to us, but I know that for the physical one, I've reviewed RCMP files, for example, where cars have been scorched. There's obviously the Stephen Michalak case from Falcon Lake. It's called the Falcon Lake incident. That one was never ever proven to be a hoax or anything.
I heard this.
He was a prospector. He was out in the woods, came across what he said was a silver disc with a grate on it. As he got close to it, it blew some exhaust towards him and flew up. It actually burned him, burned his clothes. They tested his clothes. His clothes were had nuclear radiation on them. It's never been proven to be, a hoax, anything like that. There was another case as well in South Bar, Nova Scotia, back in 1974, September 1974, where multiple people in South Bar, Nova Scotia saw a UFO. They saw it actually land or touch the ground, and the ground was destroyed for many, many years after. Nothing would grow on it. It was in a circular shape. The military investigated it. They tested the soil. It did have some weird properties to it, nothing like from outside Earth or anything like that, but something weird for that area. And that was pretty much it. They couldn't really say what it was one way or the other. They tried to say Greenland was testing rockets, and that's what people were seeing in the sky, but they really couldn't explain the burn pattern in the ground. So cases like that I find very fascinating because, especially today with drones, to me, someone reports a light in the sky, unless it's doing something really amazing, it's kind of hard to say what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And you're very much correct with
And the sky is fascinating. When you take a moment and look.
Well, the technology today too, though.
Yeah. But
Right.
even, what I mean, though, is like you look in your backyard. We live a little bit outside the city. So do you, Matt.
Yeah.
And the night the meteor showers were just coming by.
Yeah.
It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
Andrea, my partner, she was kind of like, she got some sleep bags out on her back deck. And we all lied down and we looked up at the stars for a minute. Sounded crazy, but man, 20 minutes into it, your eyes start to adjust and you start to really see the sky and all the stuff that's going on up there.
Yeah. Or I've seen
unbelievable.
like meteors come through where it's like streaking and it'll stop for like a split second.
Yeah.
But then it keeps going.
Keeps moving, right?
Yeah.
So those things
but
are
you know
really weird.
it's not a UFO or anything like that. It's just it got caught up in atmospheric drag or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
But there are lots of things up there that are hard to explain as you look further, right?
Oh, there are for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, NASA as well has, their astronauts have reported seeing stuff from the International Space Station.
It's endless, right?
There's
Well,
some,
and it's-
as I dig into it more and I get older, I kind of have become more open to the interdimensional theory, because a lot of people think that they're coming from some sort of other dimension.
That's more what I would be
which kind
on.
of makes sense because all of a sudden you'll
I
see
think
this
that's Ghost
silver
too, by the
disc.
way.
Some people think actually there is a theory that some people think ghosts are crossover from another dimension.
Yeah.
But like when the UFO doesn't shoot off into space, because some people report it shoots off into space. Okay. But then there's others where it's like a silver disc just there and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just instantly gone.
Right.
So it's, I don't know. And physicists have said that there are other dimensions, or mathematically it's possible that there's other dimensions.
Well, if you get into like quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which I'm not claiming I understand fully, but I like to
Me
read about.
neither.
I like to read about it because I find it really interesting, and that's where I kind of like get into. It's like we don't know enough about how the universe works to the point where it can't be. It could be people who do go somewhere else, and maybe there's parallel universes that are blending, and that's who we're seeing, or whatever. And that could be aliens, that could be ghosts. They could all be the same thing, right?
Yeah. That is one theory they talk about.
And that's a
bleed-through.
scientific thing. That's not even a paranormal thing. That's a theoretical scientific thing, right? Yeah.
Yep. Well, I always, you'll probably see it if you guys are hanging out for the presentation tonight. You'll see it on the slides, but I always throw in times that we were wrong as humans. And the chief British surgeon back in the 1800s actually had said that the chest and the abdomen would be forever closed from the wise surgeon because it's just too intrusive. But we know that's not true. They can cut you open now. They can put a pig's heart into you.
Yeah.
You know, Elon Musk can put friggin' chips in our brains.
That's right.
You know, to control computers. There's all kinds of stuff that we could do now that we couldn't do back in the late 1800s.
No, that's very
and
true.
I think the paranormal's a lot like that. It's just stuff that we haven't proven or fully explained yet.
So I guess the other thing. So you're doing lots of events. I mean, by the time this airs, so you can't talk about it now because it hasn't happened yet. But by the time this airs, you will have had an event that's coming up.
Yeah.
Give us a little rundown about what that is.
Yeah, so I took a big risk last year. So my wife calls me the Elon Musk of the paranormal, but I'm on like a beer budget.
Okay.
So what I did is I wanted to bring Nova Scotia and Canada, for that matter. If you look across Canada, it doesn't really have a whole lot of paranormal conferences or anything like that.
And it should, because Southern Nova Scotia, like we talked about Shag Harbour, Southern Nova Scotia at one point was like, I don't know, what was it, the capital of UFO sightings in like North America or something like that, or Canada?
They've had so many.
Yeah.
So all that we've had really in Canada is, the odd Bigfoot conference or something out in BC, and then of course Shag Harbour does its Shag Harbour Expo, but it's all UFO related.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring something that was a mix of the paranormal. So I came up with this idea. Let's organize the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. I'll fund it personally out of my own wallet and out of the nonprofit's wallet.
Right.
Cost me about $15,000 to host it last year, and luckily it was a big risk that I took that it paid off because we ended up with about $3,000 profit, which allowed us to have this year's event.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So I'm hoping to make it.
Where was it held at?
It was held at the Halifax Tower Hotel and Conference Center last year.
Cool.
Amazing hotel. If you guys have been there, it's like
great.
They spared no expense. Absolutely amazing. The staff there is phenomenal. Had it there. I think we had 113 people show up our first year. Chris Stiles was one of the guest speakers. He pulled me aside afterwards. He said, "Elliot, you might have something here." He said, "It took us at Shag Harbour like 10 years of lecturing in the small community down there, like the little fire station, before we could get to the Rod Grand." He's like, "You basically just came in."
Well, geez, Matt, I hope when people hear this episode that we were there and we put it up on our socials.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
So we'll try to make it, man, and then this will be
awesome.
a reflection of that.
I was going to say, maybe, he has it all planned this year, but like in 2025, if he wants like 2 podcasters to drink beers and talk to paranormal people, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could set something up like that for sure.
Yeah.
In between the guest speakers' lectures, you
I
can
can
be
just freak
interviewing
people
them.
out, walk in naked, and say, "I was just abducted," right? And then just see how that works for everyone. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, but I took a big risk. It paid off. I'm hoping to make it an annual event.
Yeah.
We have different topics every year. Like I said, last year we had demonology, UFOs, ghosts.
Demonology. Jesus.
Yeah, we had
What's
a
that?
we had a
I never heard
psychiatrist.
that word before. Demonology.
No.
Man.
Study of demons, man.
Study
well,
of-
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Study of demons. We had a psychiatrist from Columbia. Columbia University, Dr. Richard Gallagher.
Oh yeah,
Jeez.
that's pretty
Come
good.
up.
That's pretty good
He's
university.
a psychiatrist that believes some people are not mentally ill; they are demonically possessed, and he does work for the church.
Scary stuff.
And once he rules out a mental illness, then he recommends them to go forward with the exorcism. process.
I talked about this when I think Laura was on there. There was a guy a priest that I knew, and he had a friend who lived in Boston. This guy was not a priest, but he worked for the Catholic Church, and he would go. They would basically send him in when they thought a place was haunted. They'd send him into this house because it was supposed to be, whether you believe it or not, but had a gift from God that he didn't go into the dramatics of like, oh, it's haunted or whatever. Right? He literally couldn't walk into a building that had an evil spirit in it. So he would walk in and immediately, like within seconds, had to turn around and get violently ill. He would like throw up.
Yeah.
And so like basically they would go, "Here, you go visit this place," and if he could walk in through the house, they're like, "It's something else."
Yeah.
If he went in and had to immediately leave and throw up, they were like, "Okay, well, something's here," and then the church would go on with their investigation.
Quick story, because I know we're running out of time.
Sorry, I
guys.
know we were already keeping you, man. I apologize.
My medium, Jody, with the organization, I only met her a couple years ago. So, kind of a funny story. My sister's married to her twin, Jeremy. So they're fraternal twins.
Okay.
And she kept telling me about Jody. She's like, "You got to meet Jody. She's a really good medium." All this stuff. Had a house where I invited her out to come. I said, "Just come at this date, this time." Didn't tell her any details. And while we were there, she had a bunch of different experiences that the homeowners were able to corroborate, and it made sense. So I was quite impressed, so I asked her to join the organization. Fast forward, a couple months ago, we were up in Amherst, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Amherst used to have a concentration camp during one of the world wars where we would send prisoners of war, and it was like a very horrible spot. So we were up there investigating a haunted house, but the lady that lives in the area claims she had seen a demon appear in the middle of the road. It had horns. It was completely black. Her dog was like freaking out. And she found out last year during Esterfest when they were telling ghost stories downtown that there was another gentleman that lives in the area that saw the exact same thing. Because afterwards she approached him and said, hey, I saw that same thing too. I'm so glad you mentioned it, so I don't think I'm crazy. So I said to my team while we were up there investigating their home, I said, why don't you take Jody and Scott, my videographer, and go walk by the area. Don't tell them anything about it. Yep, no problem. As soon as they get to that spot, that's how Jody described. She goes, they walk by it's now a cement plant in Amherst, walk by the cement plant, and she said, oh my God, she's like, is this the place? I feel like I'm going to puke my guts out. She goes, there is something seriously wrong here.
Wow.
And the homeowner said, this is the spot I saw that demon.
Crossroads demon, maybe?
Hard to say.
Yeah. There you go.
Crazy.
Sell your soul to make this podcast great again.
That was
You know what? On that note, I think we ended on that note. But
That was a good way to end it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Elliot.
Oh,
this
wait,
was-
Elliot, sorry, man. Like, if people want to check this
yeah,
out, we got a lot of folks listening that might have never heard you before, and they might
Yes,
have really wanted to. So how can they catch up with you on socials or on website or whatever you got?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to get in touch with us is our website, which is just ppri.net. So it stands for Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation.net.
Cool.
And all our socials are at PPRI INC for incorporated.
PPRI. Cool. We'll have it in the episode description
will.
too, so please just check it out. Click. You want to see some more crazy stuff? You have a couple books or a few books, you said?
Got 3 books.
That's crazy,
Three
man.
books, yeah.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you.
For sure. So
Working on a 4th one. It's just a little hard there with the little
fair
one
enough.
at home.
Oh, you got a little one there too. Yeah. So awesome, man. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
very
you're
interesting.
welcome to come back to the show again when you got more
Absolutely.
time, Halifax or another time, and we'll try to come to you to your event on October 12th.
Oh, that'd be phenomenal, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you for listening to The Afternoon Pint. We are an independent podcast and we need your support. Please take a moment to hit that like, follow, and share button. Email us if you have an idea or suggestion for the show. Please send your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.